Welcome to part 2 of the Nutanix Xpress Quick Start Video Series Guide. At this point you have your Xpress up and running, but you can't have a software-defined data center without the software. For this procedure, you'll need your laptop or other computer that's connected to your switch and internet access. Remember that the nodes come from the factory with the native Nutanix hypervisor, AHV, and AOS already installed. We do recommend that you use AHV as your hypervisor, but if you're wanting to use ESXi or Hyper-V, that's fine. You'll need to download the appropriate hypervisor ISO as well as a new AOS installation bundle before getting started. All right, let's go. A tool called Foundation is used to image the nodes and create a cluster. You start this installation process by downloading and running a Java applet from the Nutanix support portal. Connect your laptop or other workstation device to the same subnet as the nodes you just installed. The easiest way to do this would be to make sure you're on the same switch you connected earlier. So open a browser on your laptop and log on to the Nutanix support portal. That's portal.nutanix.com, and create an account if you don't already have one. Then do the following. Select Downloads, Foundation, and then you'll click the Link to JNLP from Online Bundle. This downloads a Java applet that discovers nodes. We're going to launch it from here. Discovered nodes are factory-prepared nodes on the same subnet that are not already part of a cluster. Let's run. A window appears with a list of discovered nodes. Select one of the nodes you installed and click the Launch Foundation button. This launches the Foundation graphical user interface. If there are additional nodes on the subnet, as in our figure, they will also appear in the list. Just make sure you select one of the new SX series nodes you just installed. And click Launch Foundation. So here we are in Foundation. In the Discovered Nodes screen, which is where we are here, select the nodes you installed, and then click the Next button at the bottom right. If the only nodes on the subnet are the ones in the new SX series block, those are the only nodes that appear on this screen. All available blocks and nodes are displayed. An exclamation mark icon is displayed for unavailable nodes. Those are nodes that are already in a cluster. If a discovered node has a VLAN tag, then the tag is displayed. Our block is this one. When we click the checkbox, A, B, C, and D are all on VLAN 0, and we can go next from there. All right, now we're on the Define Cluster screen. Here we want to do the following. We'll select a name for the cluster. I'm going to call mine Express Yourself. You'll need an IP address, which is optional. We're not going to use one in this case, but it would be a virtual IP address for the cluster. This field sets a logical IP address that always points to an active controller VM, provided that the cluster is up. This parameter is required for Hyper-V clusters, but it's optional for ESXi and AHV clusters. For NTP server address, we'll enter the NTP server IP address or pool domain name. For us, that's going to be 0.us.ntp.pool.org. That's just a publicly available NTP pool. For the DNS server IP, notice that it's optional for ESXi and AHV. If you're using Hyper-V, you'll want to make sure that your domain controller IP address is listed here. All right, so under network information, we want to set the net mask and gateway for both the CVM and our hypervisor. Now remember that these are on the same broadcast domain, so it should be the same information for both. We're just going to use a public DNS server at Google 8.8.8.8. In the Setup Node screen, do the following. Hypervisor host name. We want to enter a base host name for the set of nodes. The host name should contain only digits, letters, and hyphens. For our hypervisor host name, I will just use our block serial number. Notice that it goes ahead and fills in the hypervisor host names across the board, starting with a hyphen of -1, 2, 3, and 4. So here we want to enter the starting IP address for the set of controller VMs across the nodes. Notice I put in 10.5.53.117, and since we have 4 nodes, it runs all the way to 120. It fills this in automatically. And finally, we'll do the same thing with the hypervisor IP. Once we have all our IP addresses in here, we can click Validate Network. This does a ping test to each of the assigned IP addresses to check whether any of those addresses are currently being used. If there are no conflicts, then the process continues. If there is a conflict, this screen reappears with the conflicting addresses highlighted in red. Installation will not continue until the conflict is resolved. This step can be skipped with the Skip Imaging button if AHV is the hypervisor. This creates the new cluster without imaging the nodes. Remember, if you're using a hypervisor other than AHV, you should have downloaded the hypervisor ISO image and a new AOS installation bundle. This is where you would use those. Cluster creation begins, and the Create Cluster screen appears. Monitor the node imaging and cluster creation progress from here. When processing completes successfully, you can click Prism to open the Prism Web Console. Let's go ahead and do that now. The default login to Prism is admin with a password of admin. Both are all lowercase. When we hit enter, it's going to prompt us to create a new cluster password. We'll go ahead and do that now. You'll then fill out some end user license agreement. Pulse sends cluster status information automatically so that Nutanix technical support can help proactively diagnose any potential problems. You can enable Pulse by clicking the Enable button. This is the Prism user interface. In the next video, we'll be covering how to manage your cluster from here. That concludes the installation and configuration process. Your new Xpress series is now ready to be configured in Prism.